Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science podcast and YouTube channel. I'm your host for today. I am Brandon, and today we are talking some best bets. We're going to incorporate some of these shows throughout the season where there's a loaded slate of hoops, and we're just going to strictly do a best bet show. They're not going to be long shows, hopefully keeping it to just over 10 minutes is what I'm going to try and do here. And for opening weekend, let's do it. It is time to talk about some best bets. Before we dive into it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button before heading out. These lines are currently changing, so turn on the post notifications so that you stay up to date. One of the games I'm going to talk about is going to be at 5 o'clock today on Friday, November 7th. Right now it is about 2:30. So had actual thoughts about maybe doing a live show at 5 o'clock, but there's a big game going on at 6, and there's another game at 5 that we're going to talk about. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's, so you don't miss a thing around the college basketball world this upcoming season. All right, so how we're going to lay this out today is we're going to talk about, I do games to watch for those who follow on Instagram or even on here, just talking about them. I do games to watch. So I'm going to pull up the games to watch, talk about some of the big games, and then I will, throughout those games to watch, talk about the best bets that I have. Then at the end, so on Friday, we'll do the Friday games to watch. And then at the end of that, we'll do our Friday best bets with some of the games that won't be on the games to watch, some games that are kind of flying under the radar for obvious reasons. They're not huge games, but some bets I like in that. And then we'll do the same thing with Saturday. So without further ado, the games to watch on Friday, Georgetown visits Maryland. Maryland now favored by 6.5. This game's at 6 o'clock. This is one of the early ones on Fox Sports 1. This line has been changing like crazy. This is going to be a best bet one for me. I'm going to put it up right here. Georgetown plus 6.5. I do like this, and the betting line is going down like crazy. So I know it started at 9.5. Georgetown was an underdog, and this is why best bet shows are so hard, because I saw it early and I wanted to bet it and I wanted to talk about it, but then I, eventually started switching down to plus 6.5. It got down to like plus 4.5, and then it went back up to plus 5.5, plus 6.5, depending on where you're looking. So Georgetown at plus 6.5. I think this is a good matchup. I think it's a coin flip on who wins the game. I'm in on both teams. I think Maryland's going to be good. I've been saying they're my sleeper for a while. However, they're going to take a little bit of time for them to get things figured out. They looked a little shaky in their opening night game, but Georgetown, it was heard around the world that they beat Kentucky on in an exhibition. So take that as you will. Just in general, matchup wise, I think Georgetown has the pieces to shut down Maryland. They got the size to compete with Maryland. They KJ Lewis should shut down Miles Rice. I would think KJ Lewis, one of the best defenders in the entire country. I like Georgetown's odds at plus 6.5. I think it's a coin flip game on who wins the game. All right, next up, number 19, Kansas, and number 25, North Carolina. This is the game of the night. North Carolina is favored by 1.5. Depending on where you find it, you might find it as a pick'em game. It's at 7 o'clock on ESPN, so hopefully someone is clutching up for the YouTube TV customers and doing that YouTube live stream again. That is probably so incredibly illegal, but shout out to them for doing it, because Duke and Texas would have been missed had it not been for that. So if you go to find this big game on ESPN tonight and you're like, where's ESPN? They don't have the app anymore. Go to YouTube and see if someone's live streaming it. Hopefully I can't get in trouble for trying to find some illegal stuff, hopefully. But North Carolina is favored by 1.5, and I'm not going to have a best bet for every game. I do have a best bet for this one, and this is, I hit these bets on about, I think last year it was 67% of the time. So what I'm trying to do is, if I have like a 70% chance feeling, plus, looking at the computer algorithms and such, if I feel that, I'm going to put as a bet. And I have a heavy lean towards North Carolina in this game. It's their positional size. Their positional size is going to overmatch Kansas in a home environment already. Darren Peterson's awesome. Don't get me wrong. He's my pick to be number 1 in the draft, best freshman in the entire country. But going against a team that is huge, North Carolina is huge in his first true road experience. I know they played Louisville in an exhibition. This is a little bit different, and this is a different built team, North Carolina to Louisville. Louisville is, kind of smaller, shoots the 3. North Carolina's huge. They're going to be huge. I'm sure North Carolina's going to throw Seth Trimble on them. Will they even throw Caleb Wilson on them? I don't know, but I like the size for North Carolina to kind of, be able to hold off a feisty Darren Peterson. Even if he knocks down a bunch of threes, I think that it's going to be North Carolina's game to lose here. This is a big Big shot here for Hubert Davis in North Carolina. I think they get the job done. I like North Carolina on the money line. You can get them just about even money. Ken Pom does have North Carolina winning the game 79-77 for what it's worth. I also like North Carolina in this game. I think they're going to have the the matchup advantage in this one. All right, next up is Oakland and Purdue. This game's at 7:00 on Peacock. I also have another best bet for this game as well. It's going to be Purdue minus 30.5 in this one. Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn didn't score the ball real well in their opening night win. I believe they won by 30 or 31 in the opening night and didn't look great. This Oakland team is bad. They gave up 121 points to Michigan the other day. Purdue's like they're the favorite to have the best offense in the entire country. Wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of a get right game. I know Braden Smith had 11 assists last game, and Fletcher Lawyer went off. So there could be a little bit of regression there for Fletcher Lawyer, not dropping 30 like he did last game. But I think just with their three options going against this Oakland team that's going to be down this year, still trying to figure things out. If Michigan's going to score a ton of points on them, so is Purdue. Minus 30.5. I don't think that's enough points. I think they win by 33 plus in this game. All right, next up, a game I don't have a best bet, but I will talk about some particular leans that I have. VCU and Utah State. This is a really fun mid-major matchup, and it's not even on TV. It's at 8:00. I even looked to see if it's like on the Mountain West network, or if it's not, at least according to ESPN and CBS Sports apps, it's not on any main network. Utah State's favored by 2.5 in this game. Don't really have a lean particularly. If I had to pick who's going to win the game, I'd probably say Utah State. Just a little more confident in Utah State, but VCU is a good team. I did like the over, and I thought the over was going to be about 159.5. I believe it's up to 164.5. It's not a best bet, but if it was like 158.5 and maybe 157.5, I was going to make it a best bet, but that number's starting to climb. I believe it started off at like 160, so never really was starting there in general, but if I do have a particular lean, it's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, but 163.5, 164.5, depending on where you find it, that's a little too much. So, one I'm kind of just staying away from. If I had to pick, the Utah State and probably the over still, but yeah, that's a lot of points for two teams that are, early in the season trying to figure their stuff out. Next up is Sam Houston at number 10, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is favored by 30 in this game. This game's at 8:00 on ESPN Plus. I don't have a particular read on this game just because we don't know what JT Toppin's if he's gonna play, like Luke Bamboy, Lawan Watts. They're probably gonna play. I would think maybe outside of JT Toppin. Not sure about JT Toppin, which is really hurting my National Player of the Year bet on JT Toppin. But yeah, don't have a particular lean just with the injury problem there. Texas Tech will win the game, but we'll see. At 9:00 on the ACC network, one I had literally in the script here as a best bet and had to take it away because of the line movement. UAB at NC State. NC State originally was favored by 13.5 or 14.5, depending on where you're looking. It's now up to 18.5, and I loved it at 13.5 and 14.5, and I didn't bet it. I was just a little bit too late. You got to be on them. You got to be sharp because these lines change quickly. There is going to be a ton of points scored in this game. I really think so. The over-under is about 161.5 right now. I would maybe take the over in that game. It seems like a lot of points, but NC State's going to score the ball at will this year. Will Wade, especially, at will Wade. Think they're going to probably put up about 90. It's just how bad do they beat UAB if they cover that 18.5. So, don't have a particular lean anymore. I liked NC State minus 13.5. Don't like it as much as at 18.5, obviously. All right, next up, a weird game to be on TNT, but it is, at least once again, according to ESPN and CBS Sports app. Utah Tech at number 13, Arizona. Arizona is favored by 33.5 in this game. Arizona getting a ton of hype right now. I do have a best bet in this one, and it's going to be the opposite way of Arizona. Last week, a best bet was Arizona versus Florida. I'm betting against Arizona this week, plus 33.5. Utah Tech's solid. They are not too terrible. And I think it's more on the side of Arizona in this instance. I think it's just going to be a little bit of a hangover game, which is a real thing. You beat the defending national champs. You're going to have a little bit of too much boosted confidence, a little bit too much, Koa Pete. The whole world is watching Koa Pete tonight. He's got a lot of pressure on him. 33.5 is a lot of points to give anyone. I'm taking Utah Tech plus the 33.5 in this one. Although I will say this is probably my least my least favorite best bet, but I still do think it was worth putting on here. I think Utah Tech will cover 33.5 in this game. A little bit of a letdown game for Arizona. All right, next up, final game to watch, Chattanooga at St. Mary's. Chattanooga, last year's NIT champ. St. Mary's, always consistent under Randy Bennett, favored by 14.5 in this game. This game's at 10:30 on ESPN+, fun mid-major matchup. I don't have a particular lean in this game. I think St. Mary's wins the game, but Chattanooga is really talented as well. I really like this Chattanooga team, but staying away from it. All right, so the best bets for Friday. We're going to talk about a couple more than we already talked about. We talked about North Carolina money line, Georgetown plus 6.5, Purdue minus 30.5, Utah Tech plus 33.5. Now let's talk about some other games that weren't on here. We'll start with Illinois versus Florida Gulf Coast. Over 159.5 points. Illinois is not going to have a lot of games where they don't score 100 points in the non-con, especially against a mid-major team. And I think Florida Gulf Coast is going to be decent this year, but Illinois is so explosive offensively. They're going to play so fast this year. They showed it last game. I can't even remember how many points they scored. It was like 117 or something, maybe 111. But they're going to speed up the tempo. And Florida Gulf Coast, if you think they can score over 60 points and cover, 40 points in this game, I think the over hits on 159.5, because I think Illinois is going to score. I'd be shocked if Illinois scores less than 90 points in this game. Illinois, Florida Gulf Coast, over 159.5. Next up, Northeastern and Colgate. This is the game that's taking place at 5 o'clock, why I wanted to get this out a little bit early. Northeastern versus Colgate, under 147.5. Colgate really likes to control the tempo. Northeastern, not a particularly well-scoring team. It's an early slate game. This is also one of the ones I'm a little bit less confident in, just because, unders are always kind of a little bit scary. However, unders always seem to do a little bit better. But under 147 points, I think Colgate's going to control the tempo and just beat them, quite frankly. And then finally, Ohio State versus Purdue Fort Wayne, over 163. It's actually ended up being 160.5. The line went down, which is even better. Here, I'll update it real quick just so it looks a little bit prettier. All right, there we go. Ohio State versus Purdue Fort Wayne, over 160.5. Just like the Illinois and Florida Gulf Coast game, Ohio State is going to be one of the fastest tempo teams in the entire country. Speaking of fast tempo games, who Ohio State played last week, it's going to be on our Saturday best bet. So follow along here. Ohio State should score over 100 points in this game. Quite frankly, I'm not high on Purdue Fort Wayne. So unless you think Ohio State's going to beat them by over 40, I like over 160.5 points in this game. And quite frankly, Ohio State's defense is not good. They are going to struggle this year on the defensive side of the ball. Wouldn't be surprised if they were like a traditional like Alabama team where they're top 10 in offense. And, I should give Nate Oates a little more respect than that. He's put together some really good, like the Final Four team that they made a couple years ago with, Mark Sears, where they were in the 70s in defense. I could see that with Ohio State, just quite frankly, probably not as good as that Alabama team, but they're going to give up some points to Purdue Fort Wayne, and they're going to score the ball at will in this game. I like over 160.5 points. All right, so I said this podcast was going to go about hopefully just over 10 minutes. We're at 13 minutes, and that was just Friday. Maybe this is going to be a little longer than I thought. All right, Saturday, games to watch. Let's start with number 15, Alabama, taking on number 5, St. John's. What a way to start. 12 o'clock on FS1. Latrell Wrightsell and Aiden Holloway are both questionable for the game for Alabama, so keep an eye on that. However, I don't have a particular lean on the spread. I think St. John's favored by 6.5. That seems about right, honestly. Just with the injury concerns, I think if they both play, it'll probably be 4.5 or 5.5. And if it's 4.5, I'd probably it's so weird because I love Nate Oates, but I got to get out of the, betting for what you want versus betting to what is smart. And I do think St. John's wins this game. Once again, just kind of like the North Carolina and Kansas game. St. John's has the positional size advantage in this game, a little bit of a bigger front court, playing at Madison Square Garden, not as, maybe, loud of a home court environment as it would be at Carnesecca. But I think St. John's wins the game, not comfortable with the spread, staying away from it. However, on the over-under, I am going to take the over in this game, 168.5. Seems like a lot of points, right? 84-ish points a game, or a team, excuse me. It's going to soar over that. Two of the fastest paced teams in the entire country. St. John's has got a lot to figure out defensively. This upcoming, this upcoming season, and Alabama is obviously going to push the pace faster than anyone in the country other than, Ohio State, Illinois, and IU Indy, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Alabama's probably might even be at the top of that list, other than maybe IU Indy. But they're gonna run the floor, and St. John's also wants to run this year with some prolific offensive. I think over 168.5 is going to happen. I think it's going to be a race to 100. Wouldn't be surprised if it's like final score St. John's 93, Alabama 90. Both teams hit 90 in this game. I think it's going to be so fun to watch. One of the most fun to watch games that we'll have in this entire non-conference. All right, next up at 3 o'clock on ESPN Plus, San Francisco taking on Memphis. Now, some of these betting lines are not out. The St. John's one is out. Michigan State is out, and Gonzaga is out. These are the KenPom lines, and for those who don't know, the betting lines are basically based off the KenPom lines. So anyone who you hear say, oh, KenPom's just a worthless algorithm, they're the same people that are always saying, well, Vegas always knows what they're doing. It's Vegas. That's Vegas. No, Vegas pretty much is KenPom. So the KenPom lines are very accurate in this scenario. So Memphis -8. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes down to +7.5, +6.5. Doesn't matter. I'm taking San Francisco +8. I think San Francisco is going to be really good this year. I don't think Memphis is going to be good this year at all. San Francisco has the capability to match up with Memphis athletically. It's going to be how far can Doug McDaniel carry them. We're going to see. For people who have followed this for a while, I'm like as low on Aaron Bradshaw as anyone can be. He's going to be the starting big man for Memphis this year, I believe. I like San Francisco a lot, +8. And if you're feeling a little bit frisky, San Francisco money line, I'll probably take it. You're probably going to find them at +250 or even better odds. I like it. I think they got a good chance of going and winning at Memphis this upcoming season and starting to get the tables turned for what is Penny Hardaway's future. I'm going to predict this one. San Francisco, I'm taking them on the money line if you're frisky. Also +8 in this matchup. All right, next up is Vanderbilt taking on UCF. Fun non-conference matchup here. This game's at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. Vanderbilt's favored by 6 via KenPom. It'll probably be about 5.5 or 4.5, what I would expect. Depending on what the money line situation is, I'm probably going to take Vanderbilt. This one's got a little bit of an asterisk next to it. I probably should have put an asterisk, just depending on what the line is. If it's -190 or better, -190, -180, -175 for Vanderbilt, I'm going to take it because I'm confident Vanderbilt's going to win this game because Vanderbilt is going to be awesome this year. For those who don't know, Mark Byington, a tremendous coach. They just beat up on a good Lipscomb program the other day. And I don't like this UCF team at all. I think they're going to finish well, that's not even a hot take. They're going to finish probably bottom 3 or 4 of the Big 12. I think Vanderbilt's going to go and, kind of show the world what's up with Vanderbilt basketball this year. I'm going to take Vanderbilt money line if the number is right. Next up, Virginia Tech and Providence, 2 teams with kind of higher expectations than they're used to coming into the season. Well, I guess maybe not Providence, but Virginia Tech had a lot of hype this offseason. Providence is favored by 1 in this game, and I do have a best bet. It's going to be Providence money line in this one. This game is not a home game for Providence. This game's going to be played in Connecticut, so sort of leans towards the Providence line there. But I think Providence is just better, quite frankly, with their talent wise. I think Providence is going to be a bubble team. I made the prediction that Virginia Tech could end up making the NCAA tournament. They could be solid. This could be the start in the right direction for Virginia Tech. However, Providence is also in don't lose mode as well because they have a little higher expectations. I think 1 point is not enough, so I'm probably going to take Providence on the money line in this one. This is probably my least confident one in this one, just with full transparency. All right, Charleston taking on FAU, 6 o'clock on YouTube. These teams played last year, I believe. Was this the game? This was the game that went into triple overtime that Berzovic made the buzzer beater, I believe. I believe that was Charleston FAU. 6 o'clock on YouTube, though. FAU favored by 1. Fun mid-major matchup. I don't have a particular lean in this game. FAU looked pretty good against Boston College. I think Charleston's going to be pretty good. So looking forward to that one. All right, next up, number 14, Arkansas, taking on number 22, Michigan State, 7 o'clock on Fox. High-level matchup here. I have particular leans in both the money line department and with the over-under. Let's start Arkansas money line versus Michigan State. I'm going to give you the most boring answer to why Arkansas money line in this scenario. They're better. They have more talent. They are a much better group of individual talent than Michigan State is, which is why I'm going with it. I think this Arkansas team is like legit national championship good. this matchup is kind of just perfect for them as well. Michigan State's going to try and be, I mean, they're going to try and make this game ugly, which is going to lean into our other bet, which I'll just say it. It's going to be the under in this game, under 156.5. So you're looking at, 77, 78, 78, it would be easy math. Under that per team. I think Arkansas is going to, we saw them struggle to make threes in that game last year against St. John's, where they ended up beating them. They can go cold at times. However, just matchup wise, they can match the physicality with Michigan State better than most teams can. Where's Michigan State scoring going to come from in this game? Trey Fort, Kurtang, Billy Richmond is going to be thrown on them, and Billy Richmond is one of the best defenders in all of college basketball. He's going to make a huge jump this year for Arkansas. He's going to throw him on there. I'm not sure where the rest of the scoring is going to come for Michigan State. Jackson Kohler is probably going to be met up with, the likes of Trayvon Brazil, Nick Pringle. You can throw him in there. He'll probably end up fouling out in this game with the Michigan State's physicality. But throw Nick Pringle in there to match up with those Michigan State big men. I don't think they're going to have enough scoring to compete with this Arkansas team. And if Arkansas gets hot, I could see it being a runaway. However, I'm not going to predict it. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Arkansas wins the game by like 7, quite frankly. I think it's going to be a good one. The home court environment's always awesome at Michigan State. They just can't match the talent level as Arkansas. And Arkansas, ever since the tournament last year, has just been a cohesive unit. I think they're going to continue it. We'll see what Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas can do as the star freshman for Arkansas against a pretty good defensive backcourt and or a really good defensive backcourt with Jeremy Fears and Kurtang. Should be a fun matchup, but I'm going to take Arkansas and the under 156.5 in this game. Chattanooga versus UNLV. UNLV is favored by 2 in this game. Chattanooga is coming off that NIT victory. We just talked about them a second ago, but so back-to-back games for Chattanooga. So if you want to leave UNLV, I don't have a particular lean in this game, and it's a shame this game's not on TV as well. Then Oklahoma versus number 21 Gonzaga. Gonzaga favored by 11.5 in this game. This game is being played at Gonzaga, so I don't have a particular lean. I like Oklahoma. I like Gonzaga. This line seems about maybe a little too high. I would probably lean Oklahoma. 11.5 is a lot of points to give a team an SEC team that made the tournament last year. That's a lot of points, but Gonzaga should be really good this year. That's at 10:30 on ESPN2. So the best bets, I'm going to have one more that we'll talk about as promised. Arkansas money line versus Michigan State. Arkansas versus Michigan State under 156.5. St. John's versus Alabama over 168.5. Vanderbilt money line versus UCF. San Francisco +8 versus Memphis. San Francisco money line, if you're feeling frisky, versus Memphis. Providence money line versus Virginia Tech. And the last one we'll talk about, IU Indy over 164 points with Butler. Butler has a decently talented roster. I don't know if this game's on TV. I guess I can look real quick if this game is on TV if I can find the game quick. We'll see. It's on ESPN Plus, 5 o'clock on ESPN Plus, IUI and Butler. I encourage everyone to go watch IUI. Now, I cover a lot of Ohio State games, so I watched Ohio State versus IUI. Oh my goodness, this team presses nonstop. They look to cherry pick. They look to run and gun. It is like the most overstimulating basketball you'll ever find, and it is awesome. They got a coach who transferred from the coach didn't transfer, came up from West Liberty, who is a powerhouse at the Division II level. Brought a lot of his guys. West Liberty averaged 102 points per game, I believe it was last year, and that's courtesy of a Jim Root of Three Man Weave, who I got that information from. 102 points per game, either it was last year or the year before, but they run and gun. It's just the style. This team is going to fly up and down the court. They're going to be one of the worst defenses in the entire country. They're so aggressive. However, one of the most fun teams to watch in all of college basketball. 82 points apiece might seem like a ton. This could be a game where Ohio State and IU Indy, the final score was 118 to 102. So yeah, that's 220 points in that one. Then they played LIU. IU Indy did in a game that was 94-90. So playing against Butler, I think Butler's really going to score the ball, and IU Indy is going to as well. So horrible defense, a lot of fun to watch though. So going to take the over in that game until the betting lines are starting to catch up to IU Indy though, and it's a lot of fun to watch. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. I said 10 minutes. It's going to be about 25 minutes. Before you head out of here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, turn on the post notifications. As always, make sure you bet with care. This is just for the fun of it. If you hit 6 out of 10, it's good. We're not looking to go. I mean, of course, we'll take it if we go 10 out of 10 or, 3 out of 3. I like to try and go in the strategy of winning 6 out of 10, 6 out of 11 bets, just to make it a little more interesting, but make it, a little bit more fun while providing my insight in some of these matchups where they might be. Also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Hopefully these lines haven't moved too much by the time you're hearing this. Let's cut it off short here. Everyone enjoy this weekend of college basketball. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Till then, take care.